I'm Tony Franklin. I'm a campaigner for gambling reform. We've got the upcoming Gambling Act review that's to be shortly announced by the government. My top three priorities for the review would be to make all gambling an 18 plus activity across all gambling products. But I'd also within that put in a consultation to look at making the most dangerous gambling products. So that's things like scratch cards, bet in play, online casinos, electronic gambling machines, for consideration to make them 21 plus. In addition, I think we've reached a point with gambling in society where I think people are fed up with the saturation of gambling advertising on television, in social media, and we're just non-stop exposed to gambling messaging and offers to gamble. And I think gambling, people are fed up with that. I think that we should be moving towards gambling as a tolerated activity that is not promoted, and people are not encouraged to spend more money gambling. So that would be my second pillar. So the third pillar for me would be looking at affordability, and I think that underpinning any gambling activity, people should only spend money that they can afford to spend within their weekly or monthly disposable income levels. So this should be money that's a small proportion of their weekly income, and excludes things like inheritance or redundancy money or windfall money or any of these other large sums of money that the gambling operators have allowed people to play with historically. People should only be able to spend money with which they can afford to be without from their weekly or monthly income. Proper affordability that looked at people's disposable income. And if we did away with gambling advertising and encouraging and enticing people to spend more money gambling than they already do so, these two measures would eradicate high-value customer or VIP customer schemes as they were known, which, frankly speaking, these schemes were very exploitative, and led to people gambling sums of money that they couldn't afford, or sums of money that weren't theirs to gamble with because they started stealing money. So my opinion on the high value customer schemes, the very important people schemes, or whatever you want to call them, is that they just shouldn't exist. And in fact, the lived experience interim panel working with the Gambling Commission gave this advice to the gambling regulator, but our voice was seemingly ignored, because the Commission gave the operators another chance to self-regulate, which from my point of view is completely unacceptable, again because we need to base gambling spend on what people can afford to lose, but also it's unacceptable because the regulator doesn't have the ability even to monitor what is going on. They don't know how many of these schemes are in existence, and therefore if they don't know how many are in existence, how do you actually monitor the effectiveness? So it seems to me that the regulator really is relying on trust of operators to do the right thing, which again with gambling is ridiculous, because the whole design of gambling is to extract all the money that you possibly can off the person who's playing against you. So I go back really to making the argument around affordability and encouraging, well, not encouraging, but only allowing people to spend what they can afford to within their disposable income on a weekly, monthly basis, and not promoting or encouraging people to to gamble more than they do so. The role of advertising in gambling has been really, you know, almost, it's almost extreme, to the point that if you purchase a let's say FIFA football game for your PlayStation or Xbox or whatever, within that game, all the teams will have the same gambling logos within that game. So children are being exposed to that, you know, to those, you know, gambling companies, and you know, obviously children are then able to relate, you know, their heroes to a gambling company or their team and what gambling logo is on their shirt. And, you know, this is, you know, a very sort of subliminal technique that just sort of creates an association between sport and gambling, that, you know, to participate in sport, you have to get a bet on, or it's all part and parcel of the experience, when actually, you know, it shouldn't be anything further from the truth. So, you know, I personally just think with gambling that we just need to remove all this imagery. We need to stop, you know, allowing our kids to be exposed to it and to make associations with gambling, and to see gambling as a sort of fun, you know, pastime which is associated with watching sport, because that's, you know, not what sport is about. And, you know, it's creating unhealthy and damaging relationships for children, which they then carry on into adulthood and develop addictions to these products. So, you know, again, in the context of the Gambling Act review, I would quite simply just call for a complete ban on gambling advertising. I think we've reached a point now where the oversaturation of, you know, gambling and, you know, the offers associated with gambling, there's creating unhealthy relationships, encouraging people to gamble more than they can afford to lose. I just think all of that's got to stop. And if we're going to allow gambling, it should be a tolerated activity, not advertised and not promoted.